This episode of Artist Decoded is brought to you by No Wave Academy. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned professional, No Wave Academy is your ultimate educational resource to help bring your artistry to the next level. Our renowned roster of instructors include Nick Runge, Mia Bergeron, Sean Cheatham, Kate Zambrano, David Chaffetz, Paul Christina, John Wentz, and many more. Some of these artists have appeared on this very podcast, while others have been featured in exhibitions at the No Wave Gallery and museums around the world. Here at No Wave Academy, we believe that everyone has a unique artistic expression. With guidance, experience, and the proper tools, students have the ability to invigorate and elevate their work. Unlock and unblock your inner creative voice. Join us and walk into the next chapter of your personal artistic evolution. Go to nowaveacademy.com. Type in AD-10 at checkout for 10% off. That's nohwaveacademy.com. Now, on to the episode. Hey everyone, this is your host Yoshino. You are listening to Artist Decoded. My guest today is painter Johan Van Mullem. We last had a conversation on the podcast on episode number 132. He comes back for round 2 to talk about life during the pandemic, realizations he's come across, and certain breakthroughs he's had in his creative practice. I love how you can see the progression and fluidity in his work over time, and I always love to have conversations with him and to share an honest dialogue. He has a new body of work that he's going to be releasing soon, so make sure to be on the lookout for that. If you'd like to go see his work for yourself, you can go to our website, artistdecoded.com, or you can check out his website, johanvanmullem.com, or you can find him on Instagram. Also, we recently started a new YouTube page. You can go there for additional content, including video clips and artist advice. All right, so here it is, my conversation with Johan Van Mullem. Hope you enjoy it. Yeah, well, thanks for taking this time. Thanks for taking this time to do this.
It's a real pleasure always to talk with you. I like it.
Yeah, me too.
I'm pleased to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, I love talking with you too. We have such good exploratory conversations on life and philosophy and life philosophy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you immediately think, when was the last time? And then you say, oh, time flies and a lot of things happens. And when you see what happens in the world, mm-hmm. I mean, in 1 year, about a year, it can happen quite a lot. So yeah, there is a lot to talk about if you want.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, the last time I talked to you was in 2018. Oh, I mean, prior to our last conversation that we had, but mm-hmm. The last time was in 2018 when we had you on the podcast. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, like, what sort of things have you been thinking about in terms of your art practice, and from last year, from the beginning of the pandemic, and how things have changed for you, and everything?
Well, I think it's always a mix between quite a lot of things, because of course we have COVID, and so we can say COVID changes a lot of things. But I think there are quite a lot of other things that happen in life. I mean, you become a little bit older, then you have some maybe other problems, and I see in 3 years, I mean, quite a lot of things happen. Now, did it really change my work? Yes, I think we all. There is always a part where you are conscious about what changes. And then I think I had a meeting today with a guy who is a gallerist, and I told him, I think the real influence, for instance, like COVID period, you cannot see it for me. It's not immediately now that it happens. It will maybe make things change in a few years or in the coming time. I mean, of course, it's already 1 year, so it's a long period. Huh? There are already quite a lot of things that change, but I think the whole society is going to change. And so I figure I can imagine that quite a lot of things will change in art, in practice, in the way of doing, in the way of communicate with people. So if I think about the COVID, this is 1 year, almost, yeah, a little bit more than 1 year. The most important thing that changed is that in the beginning, I stopped working and I discovered my garden. I didn't know that I have a beautiful big garden, and I started working in it. And that was quite new because the strange thing that happened is that suddenly they said you have to stay at home for a month, and then they told it should be 3 months, and then so the notion of time changed, and it's just like there was no hurry anymore. You know, we were all in this kind of energy, moving, working, going there and there, and then suddenly everything stopped, and then suddenly you just sit in front of yourself, really, and then for me, I discovered that I had a garden, and so I worked 3 months in the garden, and then it changed my work because I started painting something more nature, not really landscapes, but yeah, really something with a link to flowers, to mineral things. And so that's how I understood that things that happen in the world may have an influence in the work you have. So voilà, that's an example. I mean, it's just one example.
I'm curious, have you ever seen this Hiroshi Teshigahara film called Woman in the Dunes?
No, I didn't see it.
Okay. The reason why I bring this up is because it's essentially, it talks about this man who's a teacher, and then he goes and travels into the desert, and he finds this desert village of these people that have, gone out of life in Tokyo and, moved to this specific village, and they're just like these outsiders.
Yeah.
And so basically, I mean, it's a really complicated film to explain, but it's a 1960s film. And the reason why I bring this up is because in that film, so the teacher, he goes to the desert and then he finds this woman in the dunes, and the film is essentially about the contrast between city life and life outside the city in a more rural sort of context, or in a simpler context, but how like human beings can find meaning in like various things. And so the reason why I'm bringing that up is because, you're talking about your painting practice, and then how things shifted from when you essentially stopped painting at the beginning of the pandemic to be able to garden. And I'm sure that, and you can, speak of this, but I'm sure that you've learned a lot of things just while gardening that you can apply to your painting practice.
Yes. I think the main difference between the film that you're talking about and what is happening here is that we have been put in front of a problem where we had no choice. It came to us and we had to react to what happens. The guy, I suppose, the one who goes to the desert, it's his own decision to do that because maybe he is looking for something or searching, or it's a period of his life where he wants to find things. But it is his own decision.
Well, no, the part. Okay, so this is the other part of the movie. So in the beginning, it's his decision to move out, or not to move out, but to travel to the desert. And he was just supposed to be there for 3 days. But basically, so he finds this woman that's in the dunes, and he was going to leave the next morning, but he ended up basically like the villagers had him like go down this rope ladder, and then they pulled the ladder from him. Oh. And then so they basically kidnapped him and trapped him in this dune.
Yes, he could not escape.
He couldn't escape. So it's kind of like, I mean, you can draw a similarity to that in the pandemic. And then it's kind of like, you see him in the beginning going through this grieving period where he's, he feels he has that victim mentality and he feels sorry for himself, but then he kind of starts to adapt to the change of environment, and he realizes that he'll probably never go back to Tokyo again. That sort of thing. Yeah. So it's kind of similar to something you're talking about, I feel like.
Sure. Yes, it's really the first time that you can not only feel, but you can see the changes. You know, it's not intellectual. It's really a new practice, because here what happens is that it's the environment that changes. It's not you and yourself in the beginning. It's the environment. And then, of course, same as in the film, you start to change, and you start to see that you don't decide quite a lot. You just have to, as you say, you have to adapt yourself. If you don't, well, there is no other solution. I think that you have to find, and I think you can see things positively and you can see things negatively. I think there is always something to learn or to be understood. Try to understand it and try to keep it and try to put it inside and make it something new. So you have to be open enough to accept things to arrive. That's important, I think. Because I see around me, I think a lot of people, and that's the society who makes the people act like that. Everything, in French we say, it's taken in charge. I mean, they talk to people and they say, you have to do this from 8 to 12. You have to go on holidays there. You have to buy this, and then you will be happy. The problem is all the people do all that, but they are not happy because they always think they need more or to do better, but there is no real sense. So I think that's really important. It's important to start to be aware that you exist by your own, and that you have your own history. Of course, you have your background, you have your education, you have your history, but still I finally think we all are the same. You see, we live on the same basis. I mean, we have the same needs, and we all are born, and we all are going to die. So it's how do you fill this period of life? I mean, but the base is the same for anyone.
I agree. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, so I'm going to bring up another thing that I read this for the second time this time, but I just finished it yesterday. Have you read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning?
No.
I think you'd really like that book. So it's essentially the first part of the book is about Viktor Frankl and his experience in the concentration camps in Auschwitz.
Oh, yeah.
And then so he actually went through 3 other concentration camps, so 4 altogether during his time during World War II. Mm-hmm. And he basically talks about his experiences, like these horrific experiences that he went through in the first part. And then the second part of the book, he extracts. So he was a clinical psychologist prior to going into the war, and then and getting thrown in the concentration camps. So on the second part of the book, he talks about what he learned in terms of how people were able to survive that, and a lot of it had to do with their mental state, like how they found meaning within their suffering. Yes. And so I think, paralleling that to what we're talking about right now, I think that, something that he says in there is that we shouldn't necessarily ask, and I'm kind of paraphrasing this, but we shouldn't necessarily ask what life will give to us, but what we can give to life.
Yeah.
Essentially. And so I just think about that in terms of like finding meaning in all these things that we do, and it could be as easy as gardening.
But I think the most important thing is the notion of what I call, and I think it becomes very important, sharing. I mean, you cannot receive if you don't give. That's something, very, very important. And I think that's the same with acting or waiting, because a lot of people are waiting for things to happen. I think we can make things happen. the most important thing is that what you would like to happen should be something good. If it has no sense, maybe there's a big chance it won't happen because it's not necessary. But I think it's, as you say, I think it's important to share. I think you need to give something in order to receive. And I don't like the word of giving and receive. I prefer the word of share. You have to share something, to propose. And it's like a gift. It's not something you are obliged to give or obliged to receive. It's a gift. And I think if we are talking about art, practice of art, I'm a very lucky man because I received the gift. I didn't do anything for it. So I really received something. So that means that I have to share what I received, and what I can share is my work. And it's painting, it's sculpture, so it's something that belongs to anyone. It doesn't belong only to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's important. Like something that you brought up is just the ideology of giving and receiving, because if you think of it just in that context that I give something to receive something, then that's more of a transactional thing because you're expecting, if you give something to someone, for instance, that you'll receive it back. But I think that what you're talking about in terms of being able to share, I think that can also take your mind out of that transactional relationship, and then more so that in this context, we're kind of talking about sharing of the artwork, right? Or sharing of your unique gifts. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, it's really that, because it's so important, because I think there is always, and I think the problem of the society, one of the problems of the society today is that it makes people very individuals, It's the sense of community, the sense of the world, of the other, of all the others, is something that disappears. I mean, if you have an image, I think people are trying to work hard to get their own home, their car, their holidays, and their own thing. There's nothing about sharing, doing things together to maybe produce something which is good for everybody. It's more about I have to try to do this for me. And I think that's a big chance we have if you are an artist, is that you make something, it's not for yourself. I mean, of course, you have a pleasure to make it, and you have a pleasure to do it and to see it. And I don't know everything around that. But the fact is that you produce something that is can be seen by anybody, and anybody can live with it. They can see something different, they can do something different, but it doesn't belong to the artist. I mean, you make it, but it doesn't belong to you. It's like, I often say, it's like the child, you see? You make the child, but the child doesn't belong to you. It has its own life. And that's important. I mean, it's important to be conscious that the other people are also alive. You don't live alone. Of course, you can't be, I'm an artist, I'm in my studio all day, I'm alone, etc. But that doesn't mean I'm really alone. I mean, it's because my job or my work needs for me to be alone. But I'm aware of the society, of the people, just by practicing and showing the art. And that's a kind of sharing. I mean, it's something that we share.
Yeah. Was there a specific, maybe something that you can talk about, but is there a specific time or something that you had, or a certain time when you had a mental shift where you think this way in terms of not being individualistic and more so being, a sharing, giving sort of a person?
Well, I think it's all about life. I mean, I needed so much time to become, first of all, self-confident, to be able, once you are self-confident, you can be able to start to talk about the others, because you are good, you are well with yourself. So I think it's something I always had, just before you can arrive to talk like this or think like this, you have to resolve your own problems first. And sometimes it can be very hard, because it's not a question of money or doing or thing. It's just about be myself. So I want to be an artist or a painter. Sometimes it's hard before you can arrive at the stage where you can say, I am an artist. I mean, it's quite hard. So, but the idea of I have a gift and I want to share it, I have it since ever. I mean, in opposite, because I see there are a lot of artists, very good artists, but who has a huge ego, you see? And
yeah.
So it's more about me and the others.
Yeah.
In my way, it's more the others and me. And then I think you have to find the balance where it's, no, we are all equal, you see? And that's the real work.
Definitely.
For me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, just speaking about our society, or just speaking about westernized thinking in general, if you're constantly thinking about yourself and you're thinking about you as yourself as an individual, and you approach life that way, then you're inherently eventually going to become a narcissist.
Right? Yeah, sure. That's the reason why I think people who are in the star system, which makes stars, that doesn't mean that the stars are happy. You know what I mean? I mean, those things are really, and everybody knows, because you hear that all the time, you can read it. Happiness doesn't depends of the quantity of money you have. I mean, it's something totally different. So the society has everything, I think, to make you happy. It just, you have to take the right things that really makes yourself happy.
Yeah. And then also being able to examine the reason, like, I think there's a certain intentionality for the reason why people do certain things, or so a lack of intentionality. So, I think since our society is so transactional in a general sense, a lot of the times, you have to think like, why would you want to accumulate this wealth? Why are you working for this company, for instance, and making all this money? What is the purpose of that? Is it taking away from who you are as an individual, or as a person that can contribute in other ways to the society? Are you trying to fill a void? These are just things that I think about on a daily basis in terms of the intentionality of people's actions and why they do certain things.
I think yes, but I think it's not something new. I think it has always been like that. So that means that any time of history, you have people who are rich, people who are poor, people who are strong, people who are weak, people who have the power, and others not. So I think it's really, I think we started at the first beginning on the wrong way. So we had some way. That's what I think. We have to wait until it ends, when we can really make big changes, because even the COVID, I'm not sure it's going to change the real most important things. It will change the way of doing. It won't change the way of thinking. And that's the problem, I think.
I'm curious. So what would you say are the most important things in your life?
The most important things, that's always a problem, because you always forget things. It's very strange. I will tell you something very strange. I'm at the point that I have really, and it's really the feeling I have, it's not positive, it is not negative. I don't think there is a real, I'm not sure that life has a sense. That means that you can try to find, you can try to do your best, you will never ask the right or the good question, and you will never find the right answer. So you can feel day and night by trying to find. You can read books, you can see films, you can travel, you can eat, you can not eat, you can drink, etc. I mean, I think there is no sense. I mean, it's just something that has been given, and you just have to, I don't even want to say try to do your best. You are existing, and you are going to die. So that means that for the most important things, I have no important things. I don't think really nothing can be important enough compared to life that has been given. You see what I mean? So that means that everything that you can think, it's something that you have produced yourself by your mind, by the intelligence you have received, and the society who makes you think like this. So there is nothing. I have the strange feeling that nothing is existing. That means we have received life that contains everything since the beginning, and we cannot change that. We are not able to change the way the world is going to. I mean, we are breathing we do nothing, but we are breathing. We do nothing, but the heart is beating. So what sense does the most important things we cannot do anything on it. It happens. It just happens. So the most important things it's I think there is one word I like is respect. Be respectful of life you've received. So of course you can do a lot of things with the same word, but I think that's for me maybe the most important word. Be respectful for what you have received.
Yeah. What sort of things have occurred in your life to give you that sort of perspective?
I don't understand completely the question.
Like, there's certain things, that happen to us in life that, like good and bad, that you can get these realizations from, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I'm just curious, like, what has happened within your life to be able to give you this sort of perspective?
I have no answer because I think everybody has his own story, his own education, his own place where he comes from and where he's going. I think it's just a question of trying to do what you feel. There is a theory that says it's not the most important organ is not the brain, but the heart. So it's the heart that decides. It's not the brain. And I really believe it's a mix of both. You have to be, once again, to find the balance between the intelligence, of the brain and the intelligence of what you feel by the heart. And that's the progress. But that doesn't mean what I think today is what I'm going to think tomorrow. It's just, I think once you find your own right place to be, where you feel yourself comfortable, I think if you can reach that, I think it's important. And well, it took me quite a lot of time, but I think I just can start maybe to be myself from now on. It took a long of time, and that makes you so happy that if it's finished today, it's finished today. It's not a. I don't have things I want to achieve or complete or no. I think I've seen or heard or done the most important things, because there is no end of things you could do or think. Life, once again, life is going to decide for yourself. It will make it an end, and you don't decide. So what makes me do I don't know. I don't know. It's a question of every day is important. Every second is important, because if you try to imagine your life, if you change just a second of it, you have another life. So it's very hard to say it is this that make me that today. There are so much things that you are not conscious about that makes you what you are. Of course, there are important decisions there that you can make, but I'm not sure those are the ones that makes you what you are today.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like, I mean, just correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you found a way to be extremely grateful for the things that are currently happening in your life and that have happened in your life.
Yes, because when you understand that the difficulties are the things that you have to go through to arrive somewhere, it's not negative anymore. Everything is positive. It's only a question of how do you see the things. I mean, everything for me is a sign. And it doesn't mean that you only have to, how would I say it? It's beauty is not only a beautiful flower. It can be also something very difficult and hard. It can be beautiful. You see what I mean? It's not white is nothing, black is everything. I'm not sure about that. It's a question of what does it bring to you, the things that happen. And I think that everything is like a kind of mirror. So it's not the things only that come to you. It's the way you are walking, you are going to. So it's really, once again, a kind of, everything for me is like a kind of balance between things. But you cannot say, I'm a poor guy, I have this misery and this problem, and that happens to me. And that, yes, it's because, I don't want to say you want it to happen, but it's because you put yourself in conditions that those things can happen. Now, of course, it depends what we are talking about. I mean, if you can be born in a place where it's really so hard compared to the place where I am and where I live. And so, once again, it's difficult to compare. But the base is the same, I think. It's, when you see this, I haven't seen the film, but I can suppose that this lady in the dune is very happy with nothing. And you have other people who have thousands and millions and billions who are not happy. So the conditions of the outside it's not 100% necessary to be what you are. It's to find the 50-50 to share.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that movie Woman in the Dunes, and to make a comparison with the book that I was telling you about, A Man's Search for Meaning. I mean, they're comparable in the sense that they both talk about human psychology and being able to extract meaning out of situations that maybe other people wouldn't be able to extract meaning from. For instance, Man's Search of Meaning, it's, he's in Auschwitz and he's, going through this really, really terrible thing, like one of the most terrible things you can probably think, to bestow upon another human, right? And yet he can still find the purpose in his life and the purpose for his suffering. And so I think, that in contrast with this idea that we're talking about, which is a victim mentality idea, where you think that everything negative in your life does not have a purpose, because there's a lot you can learn a lot about yourself in really negative situations. And in like neuroscience, people say that you can, I'm no neuroscientist, but, I brought some neuroscientists on the podcast and my research, but essentially you can exchange in your brain negative experiences and then restructure it into your brain as a positive experience, something that you can positively learn from. And I think something, just as a basic human psychology, is that humans are extremely adaptable.
But it's because I think we are all, and that makes us all the same. We are all kind of, how do you say that? Survivors?
Survivors.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are all survivors, and we are all condemned to live. So until the point that you can take the decision not to live anymore, but I mean, we are condemned to live. So I think there is quite a lot to learn about life by considering that you are a survivor instead of saying, "Wow, life belongs to me and I can do anything." No, I think it's more a question of you learn quite a lot if you have to survive, because there you can put some degrees. You see what the needs, the degrees in the needs, and that makes you understand differently, I think.
So I'm curious, like, just looking back at your body of work over time, how have you seen yourself progress into the person that you are today?
I like the image of when I started drawing, and I started quite early, and the younger I was, how older the people I was drawing were. So I mean, when I was about 10, I made a lot of looking in magazines, trying to find photographs, because I didn't work by mind. I had to find the images, but I was searching and looking for images with very, 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 very old people, wrinkled and things. And I love that. And now that I start to get wrinkled and old, I make younger people. You see what I mean? It's like a circle. So
you got kind of a Benjamin Button thing going on there.
Yeah, exactly. And in the beginning it was black and white, and now it's colored. So, but my hair is becoming black and white. So, yeah, I think there is something very strange about that. Yeah, that's my own progress. I mean, it's so completely different. But I think the most important thing is try to find the self-confidence you need to try to be what you feel you could be, or what you are.
Is that you when you talk about the self-confidence thing, is that you kind of talking to your younger self?
Yes, I think that my first part of my life was, you cannot be an artist. It's not authorized. You see what I mean? By society, parents, family, etc. You cannot. So it can come to a point when it's very, very hard, because when you are young and younger, I mean, things are very intense. And so there is a question of, I had to really survive and to hide myself. So you have to be self-confident enough to say, no, you are right. You have the right to think what you think, even if it's not what generally people say or do or think. So you need quite a lot of self-confidence, because then you can only live if you can put it not only in yourself, it has to exist. So voilà, that's what I call self-confidence. It's right to be able to say, no, you are right to think what you think and to do what you want to do because you think it's good. Of course, I still believe you need to put, of course, in the sense, because it's good. It's not crazy or bad or harmful for the other people. It's good for yourself, but it's also good for the rest of the people, I think. But it's I think we all you have to, I think at one point you need to be yourself, and it starts by be respectful for your parents, what they give or not give, but you have to make your own life. And before a bird can fly, he has to be self-confident enough to say, I can fly. I mean, if he doesn't feel that he can do it, he won't do it. So, but for the human beings, it's the same. But the society is quite difficult. The tree is quite high, and there is a lot of trouble and a lot of wind and a lot of this and this. Before you jump, it's you have to be self-confident enough.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's always good to examine our own narratives, certain things that we tell ourselves on a daily basis, and to think, is this a secondhand value? Is this something that my parents told me and that I believed in, but it's actually not not even something that are my like actual thoughts? Is it, you know, so I think it's always good to examine those things, right? And so I'm curious, like when you were young and you went to architecture school and university, was that a decision that you made because of something that your parents told you, or was that something that you actually wanted to do at that time?
No, that was not my decision. But that's always the same problem. It's quite complicated because it are the same parents that told me you cannot be an artist, and that give me the gift to make it possible to be an artist. So that's where you can see that it depends of yourself and not of your parents. So my parents give me a lot of things, and they didn't give me a lot of things. But I think as all the parents, it's just at the moment, at the point you can, if you can say maybe, well, listen, I think they have done what the best they could, or what they thought it was the best. It didn't correspond to what I feel or what I wanted to be. Then you need to work on yourself, try to be yourself. But I can see what we told just a few minutes ago. I didn't want to be an architect, but maybe it brought me something. I never built a house, but maybe it helped me to do my work better in my painting. So there is no one way of things. There is always different ways, and there is always, I think, a good way to try to do or understand, and voila. I'm not sure if I had decided, because I wanted to be an artist or a musician. I'm not sure that if I had studied those arts, I would have been still practicing today. You will never know, because voila, it's just, you just have one life. Actually, you have your own life. So I don't know. It's not my decision, but it's not important. One day, if you take the decision to say, I want to be myself, and that can be a long decision or a decision that takes quite a long time, I think it's good. It's important. And no matter if your parents did good or wrong, or what you think is good or wrong, or it could have been better. I mean, I'm a father. I'm not sure I'm the best father. Yeah, no, I'm sure I'm the best father in what I think is a good father. But that doesn't mean I'm right, you know?
Yeah.
So, voila. But I have the feeling I've done my best. So I can talk about things, you know? You can try to explain and try to justify, or if it's needed, but good and bad is also a very strange notion. Huh? Notions of good and bad.
Well, good and bad are relative in a lot of ways. And I brought this. He's his name's Dr. Hoffman, and he runs this the integrative. I believe it's the integrative medicine practice. And you know, he was talking about that what I was talking about to him was that no experience is a wasted experience. Like every experience in your life has some sort of meaning. So I think if you can view life from that lens, that every experience, good and bad, has meaning, then you don't really see necessarily like good and bad scenarios anymore. They just kind of blend together because they have a purpose.
Of course.
To shape you, you know?
Yes. But also, I think everything is linked. Something doesn't happen or arrive alone. I mean, there is always there are the things that you see, there are the things that you believe, but it's much more than that. You just can see a small part of it, or you can just hear or feel a small, you know, if you walk in the street, and you can walk in the same street for 10 years and then suddenly, and nothing changed in the street, but suddenly one day you see something you've never seen. You say, how is that possible? I mean, I'm walking on that road for 10 years, I never saw that. But it's still, it exists for 100 years maybe. So that means that you were not able to see it. So things exist. You just have to try to be open enough to see it. That doesn't mean that you have to be open for everything. It's impossible. You have to be somewhere concentrated. But just to say that the things that happen can contain things that you don't understand immediately, or that you can see, or that you can understand, that with the time, at one point, maybe it's an answer to something that will be not at that moment, but later. Because you are going to make the link, because as you said, I think everything is linked to everything. I believe that if you take 1 second off, it's another life, and that's for everything that happens. So
can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah, sure.
So in regard to parenting and becoming a parent, like, how do you think that influenced your painting, but also how do you think that changed your life?
Well, the problem is that we only have one life, so you cannot compare with anything. It's just, I just have one son. If I had 2 children, maybe I could say the first one is like that, and the second, I just have one, so I cannot compare.
Well, but you can compare it from when before you had a kid. Then
no, but I
now.
think once again, I think we are nothing. I think there is I don't like to say there is a theory, but I think that one of the main things that you can do on life is try to produce life. That means that if you make children, you make it continue. That's the evolution. And I think this is important. Now, I always have been thinking that I must give. I want my son to be free. I don't want him to think about things by reference to his father. Of course, I exist. Of course, we talked a lot, and I am influencing, but not the way of that he feels, oh, I won't do that because otherwise my father is going to think that. I mean, and the strange thing is, it's a long story. It will be for the 3rd podcast we make. I will tell you the story about the birth of my son. But I mean, to make it really very, 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 very short, I couldn't have children, and my wife couldn't have children, and we have a child. So it's a miracle. So I really think life.
Well, you can elaborate on it as much as you'd like. I mean, I'm more than willing to hear it.
No, but it's really very, 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 very strange. I had, once again, to make it short, it was physically impossible. And then at what point I had the grandmother of my wife was 90 years old, and we decided to have her home because she had a problem, and we wanted to have her home. She didn't want to come to home, but it was really the only way to do. So she lived with a few years, and one day she said, I want to go back in my village because in 1 month I'm going to die. I said, aren't you happy? She says, it has nothing to do with that. I'm very happy, but I'm going to die. In 1 month, I'm going to die. So I would like to die in my village. Took a few weeks. She convinced me. We found, you have places where you have homes where you have older people where they can stay. And she had her sister was there. And she said, listen, I'm very happy because I'm going to die in 1 month, and I'm very happy to be there. And I'm really grateful you did it. And the day when she left, she said, when she left home, she said to me, listen, I'm going to give you a gift. And I said, but I don't need nothing. I'm just so glad if you are home and we stay. She said, I know that, but I'm going to give you a beautiful gift. She left. A month later, she died. 15 days later, my wife was pregnant. And everybody said, how is that possible? It's impossible. So we went to the clinic, the doctors everywhere. How you say, gynecolog,
the gynecologist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He said, come please to my office. We're going to check everything. And he took, a kind of calendar, and he said, okay, I've got the results of the clinic with the blood, etc. And your child is going to born on 4th of November. And this is the birthday of the grandmother. And he came the 4th of May. So, voila. And nobody can explain. But when they said it's the 4th of November, which was the birthday date of this grandmother, you say, that's unbelievable. Voila. And that's the way it happens. And in between the moment she died and the 15 days before when my wife said I'm pregnant, for the first time I started painting what I call atoms. I never done that. I just make faces. And one day I said, I want to make those kind of atoms. I made an atom. On the same day I made, I don't know, maybe 30 paintings with 1 atom, 2 atoms, 4 atoms. And it was the creation of my son. The first cell, which becomes 2 cells, which becomes, the multiplication. And I felt in my body that I created life of my son. And I made an exhibition of all those paintings. I called it Alexander, which is the name of my son. Voila. And I think this is also existing. I don't say everything should be like that. But if you are open enough, like seeing a home or something in the street that you've never seen before, that means that everything can happen. It just, voila, it happened. And voila. So it's a kind of miracle. I don't know how you have to call it, but you won't have enough with one life to try to understand. So it's just something.
Did she explain the gift that she was going to give you?
No.
She just said, I'm going to give you a gift.
She was so smart. A very old lady, no school education, working in a farm and working in couture, but small, but so smart. So, this kind of intelligence of you could talk about everything with her. I mean, it's really amazing, but so subtle. I don't know how,
subtle.
Yeah. She will never tell you things directly like that. It's always,
like subliminal.
You will understand, and that's amazing. So,
wow. Well, Johan, I could talk to you forever, but I love our conversations, but I want to be conscious of your time too.
It's a real pleasure. Yeah.
No, yeah, this is awesome. I really love talking to you. You give me all kinds of little perspectives and things to think about. But so I think I asked you this the last time, but I'll ask one final question. And do you have any advice for artists and creatives?
I think it's really everything we talked about today is be yourself. I mean, you have the society, and for the artists, you have the galleries, you have the curators, you have the journalists, you have everything, and who will try to explain you what you have to do, how to do, and why you should do. Just be yourself. Just believe enough in yourself to make things possible. And the second thing, which is for me the most, also something very, very important, work hard. Just do things. Work. I think it's the practice that makes things happen. It doesn't fall from the ceiling or from the sky like that. And you may be gifted as much as you want. If you don't work and practice, just be aware that you have a gift and be respectful of what you received and try to make the best of it. I think this is important. And if you try, if you do your best, you'll be the best.
I like that. That's great. Yeah. I mean, I think the practice of an artist could be similar to practice of like an athlete. You know, you just have to show up, you have to put in the work, and you'll find some sort of progression through that process.
Yes, and there are so much things to do. I mean, what has been done has been done by others. You live in your life. There are still a lot of things to do. Enough things to do in order not try to copy things. I mean, of course, it can be learning, school. You learn things, examples. Okay, I never went to school, art school, so I don't know what it's about. I believe in practicing, as you said, as well in music, than sports, than art, and try to be self-confident to say, I cannot do anything else. I can't do it on another way. I have to do it on my own way. Voila, just try to be happy with that. And that's already a nice goal to achieve. If you arrive to do that, it's fantastic. And if you are happy, you will make the others happy. So don't try to make the others happy by what they say that you should do, because it will never belong to you. You know, if you succeed, they will say it's thanks to me. If you don't succeed, they will say it's because of you. You know, so just do yourself think, so you will. If you succeed, it's thanks to you, and if it's wrong, it's because you didn't do it right. So it's much easier.
I like that. That's great.
Voilà. In French, we say voilà.
Well, voila. And
yeah, right.
yeah. But all right. Well, thanks so much. And
thank you, Yoshino.
I love having you on. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, we'll have to have you back on, and then you can go into your the story of how your son got born miraculously. we can set aside a couple hours and
yes.
All right, Johan. Well,
okay.
take it easy. Thank you so much,
Yoshino. Thanks a lot.